The winter is over. It's time for Formula 1 2025.
Welcome to the start of the F1 25 Co-op Career Mode, where we are driving for the Haas F1 team.
That's it then, it's time to go racing.
And here we go in Australia. It's a good start. We get past Dawson, we get past Hajar, and we've made up some places on the run into turn 1. Now we're going to try and play this one smart. Let Jamie through on that medium tyre.
On-track action and it's off-track drama.
We just get a little bit greedy on the brakes, run wide, and unfortunately we're now relegated down to P4. But now as we get the run on Liam Lawson, we go round the outside of the Kiwi and we're through. Well, it was only speed, wasn't it, as Max Verstappen goes flying up the inside into turn number 1. But Haas are in the points. It's P7.
From lights out to the checkered flag, it's all go, go, go for Lando Norris.
Lando Norris claims victory in Australia. It's a McLaren 1-2 and it's Max Verstappen third.
He holds the trophy aloft and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris. Welcome along to Shanghai, ladies and gentlemen, where it's Chinese Grand Prix weekend.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video in the next episode of the F1 25 Co-op Career Mode, part number 2 today at the Chinese Grand Prix. We are coming into this one off the back of an absolutely incredible start to the season. Points on our debut with the Haas F1 team, a remarkable P7 in what is pretty dizzying heights for the Haas F1 team. If you missed the last episode, I know that you've just seen a recap of what happened, but go check it out. There is a link down in the description to both mine and Jamie's episode for round number 1 of the F1 25 Co-op Career Mode. We're heading into the Chinese Grand Prix with a minor upgrade on the car, so we have made a little bit of a step and closed the gap to the Visa Cash App RB cars. Alpine as well, starting to fall a little bit behind in the R&D development race. But let's go to the Chinese Grand Prix. It's round 2 of the F1 25 Co-op Career.
The F1 Series arrives in China for round 2 of the 2025 World Championship, with McLaren aiming for more glory around the 3.3-mile circuit. McLaren CEO Zak Brown is confident of a title attack for 2025 after Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri secured a 1-2 in Australia. Alpine are not alarmed despite a double DNF to open their 2025 season after Gasly's engine failure and a crash for rookie Randall. Haas has told F1 fans to not get used to it after Ryan secured points in his debut and faces a more challenging weekend in China.
Welcome along to Shanghai, ladies and gentlemen, where it's Chinese Grand Prix weekend. But before we can race, we need to qualify. And who's going to take that coveted pole position? How will our grid line up? We're about to find out. Welcome to qualifying.
Here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. It is sprint qualifying, a sprint weekend for the Chinese Grand Prix. 2 races ahead of us at the Shanghai International Circuit. Probably not one of my favourite circuits, not one of my better circuits, but a circuit that holds many memories in me and Jamie's time doing a F1 Co-op Career Mode. And in fact, it was actually here where we scored a double podium back in the day when a absolute miraculous strategy played off with a safety car and weather and everything like that. We ended up bagging a double podium back in the day in the Haas F1 team. It was scenes back in the day to be finishing on the podium this early in the season with the Haas F1 team. Obviously there was no like R&D and stuff like that back then, so what the car was what the car was. But as we head through the fast section of the track, we find an Apex car kind of parked in the middle of it, and we bail out of that one. Frustrating to be held up there by PS because the lap started out quite nicely and we've got to do it all over again. But as we head over the line, reduced harvesting is one thing that I've noticed already throughout this weekend on a track that has a little bit more, well, I say a little bit more flat out sections and faster sections. It's not quite that much different to Australia, with now the new middle sector where you just keep it pinned from that tight right-hander at the end of sector 1 all the way to that little chicane bit. But we do seem to be using a lot of deployment, and near enough all the deployment that we have available for us on the lap. And as you can see, running wide a little bit there, a bit of understeer through that right-hander, that cost us a little bit of time, but there is no traffic in the way on this lap. We've just got to get it over the line and see where we end up at the end of this first run. Albon currently holding 15th, Jamie holding 16th, so Jamie is the man to beat, man with a target on his back in this SQ1 session, because he is in that Q2 space. He's replaced though by Pierce, who moves up into P17. Joshua Pierce into 17th place, and we go into P15 just ahead of our teammate Ollie Behrman. So at the minute, both Haas cars in that Q2 position, but as we skip on, we have been relegated, and with only a minute and 10 seconds left on the clock, we are going to be out of SQ1. The medium tyre didn't quite deliver that time that we needed, a 1:35.2, currently held by George Russell. We were just 3 tenths of a bit off George's time, and at the minute Charles Leclerc is the man who needs to get into SQ2. But as we look at what happened to Ollie Behrman on his final run, he peels off into the pit lane, no improvement for him, so we have out-qualified Behrman for the sprint race at least. And now we've got to keep an eye on Jamie in P21 and Leclerc, who has actually pitted. So Charles Leclerc out of SQ1 is a pretty big story, given his teammate Lewis Hamilton, obviously victor of the real-life sprint race in China. He's down in, he's at the top of the time sheets, and Charles Leclerc down in 17th position. So Ferrari will be scratching their heads with what happened to the Monacanese driver. Maybe a bit of traffic got held up, didn't get the medium tyre working perhaps for Charles Leclerc, but he is out of SQ1 along with Alex Albon, myself, Ollie Behrman, and Jamie, who peels off into the pit lane, and Joshua Pierce rounding out the field. I'm looking to see where Sonny Hayes is. He's up in 11th place. Sonny Hayes in 11th, just outside the top 10 behind Pierre Gasly. That's a really good qualifying for Hayes. And again, just like Charles Leclerc, Joshua Pierce will be scratching his head there as to what happened at the end of that one. But we're going into the sprint race. We're starting P19, Ollie Behrman 20th, Jamie just behind us directly on the circuit in P21. So let's see what this sprint race holds for us in the Chinese Grand Prix.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. We're here in the Yangtze River Delta today, home of the 16 corners that make up the Shanghai International Circuit. 54% of this 3.3-mile lap is taken at full throttle, and we'll be getting up to speeds of around 200 miles per hour with DRS assistance down the back straight, before the cars break into the tight hairpin at turn 14. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Yuki Tsunoda lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, and Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Lawson, and Sonny Hayes, Gasly, Hadjar, Nico Hülkenberg, and Bortoleto, Stroll, Antonelli, Charles Leclerc, and Alex Albon, Ryan, Behrman, Thomas, and Joshua Pierce rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint. And alongside me today is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll try anyway. It's Ant Davidson. Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show in the sprint format today, there's definitely a change to what we're usually seeing on the track. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Sprint time then for the Chinese Grand Prix, and it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a sprint, 10 laps ahead of us, and we're going to try and go as far forward as physically possible in these 10 laps in this sprint race. Like I say, Chinese Grand Prix, the Shanghai circuit isn't one of my favourite circuits in the world, but we do have 10 opportunities of the Shanghai International Circuit to try and get as close to that top 10 as possible. Obviously points for the top 8, I believe, in the F1 sprint race. I think it's 8 points down all the way to 1 point. I don't know, I don't think we'll be getting points starting from P19, but never say never. A good start, and then if we have some good pace on the medium tyre, we might be alright. But as for SQ1 and kind of the pace that we had in qualifying trim, at least, it wasn't really to be. And obviously the sprint race car is exactly the same as the sprint qualifying car. So am I feeling optimistic ahead of this one? Not really, but we're going to make it, we're going to try and make it count and make the most of it as we head towards the back straight for the end of this formation lap behind Alex Albon's Williams car. I want to get ahead of the Williams. Ideally, I want to try and follow Kimi Antonelli in 16th and then Charles Leclerc in P17, because I think them two drivers will be charging forward as hard as possible. And if there's an opportunity to get through, follow them through, they run somebody right wide, they slow someone down and we get the run on them, then it'd be nice if we can just slot our way through and move into, take a couple of positions off drivers on the work of Charles Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli. But we've got to wait and see. We've got to get there at this stage as we rev up towards 5. Red lights for the Chinese Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go, and it's a good start from myself. We get alongside Albon, who's getting in turn alongside Antonelli, but a little bit boxed in between the Mercedes and us as we head into turn number 1. There might be an opportunity to gain a couple of positions, but Jamie's come flying down the inside. He's up into 16th position in the Alpine car. We're going to now sling it around the outside, which will turn to the inside. We've got Jamie on the outside, we've got Hulkenberg in the middle, and we are through and up the inside of the Sauber. As we get on the power though, the Sauber comes back at us, as does Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, who kind of appears out of nowhere as we start heading back towards the apex. He shimmies a little bit to the left, but we read that one nicely, back around the outside of the Italian, and we are back through and into P17. So a couple of places gained, but the big winner on this opening lap is the Alpine, just ahead of the Nico Hulkenberg in Jamie Randall, who's up into P15 from 21st on the grid. He's now behind Lance Stroll and will be looking to attack the Aston Martin as quick as physically possible as we head through this double left-hander and then on to the run towards the... we're going to pick up a track limits warning already on this first lap, which isn't ideal, but we get the run on Nico Hulkenberg. We send it to the inside, not fully alongside the German, and couldn't quite make that one stick. But we're going to look for the switchback, get the power down, get in the slipstream of the Sauber car, and see if we can just slipstream our way by him. Obviously no DRS yet on this first lap. That comes into effect on the next lap, but we're gaining on Nico Hulkenberg. We pull to the right hand side of the German, and we do take that position from him, and we're up into P16 as we head now into the hairpin. But there's contact between Hulkenberg and we've been spun round from Nico Hulkenberg. Two lines merging into one there. We squeezed him a little bit on entry, and Nico Hulkenberg's locked onto the side of our car. He's damaged the floor, and we are relegated to the back of the field. We are last in the Chinese Grand Prix with floor damage, and it's just a disaster really, isn't it, as we head into this section of the track. We get it all wrong. We get on the brakes late, we run wide, and now we've been given a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting to add salt in the wounds. And actually we lost 0.6 of a second, 0.7 of a second to Hulkenberg from on the brakes to when we got onto the back straight. So we actually lost time rather than gained it. But a 3-second penalty, and then our day just gets worse as we've got floor damage. There's just no feeling in the car in the high speed sections of the track, and we just lose the rear. The back end just breaks away from us. We do a little bit of a near pirouette in the gravel and a little flip, and now we've got front wing damage on top of everything. So I think we're going to just retire the car here because there is no point circulating once we put a new front wing on. There's no point circulating at the back of the grid with floor damage. Yeah, there is just no point. So we're going to make the call to box this lap and we're going to retire from the Chinese sprint race. But hang on a minute, there is a red flag due to a pile up ahead of us. And well, I did not see that one coming. But it does mean we've got a second chance to get right in the mix again. We're going to have the repairs on the car, fresh tyres.
Okay, this is essentially a free stop, so let's think very carefully about our strategy for the rest of this race.
There we go. As Mark's saying, we've got a free stop, we get some new tyres on, and we go again for what will be a 6-7 lap sprint race now. And yeah, we've got it all to do over again. We have, hopefully, the floor repaired, although I don't think we'll be able to repair the floor. It's a 3-lap sprint race starting from lap number 7. We've still got that 3-second penalty hanging over us, don't forget, but we're underway once more. And as we look on the MFD, we have a fully repaired car. We are back in the Chinese sprint race. Starting from the back of the grid, we're going to be cautious though in the way into turn number 1. Find a little gap on the inside, up the inside of Hulkenberg, up the inside of Behrman. And now we're going to look round the outside of Leclerc and Stroll, but we're not going to make that one stick. We're going to just in turn try and keep the position that we've gained from Bortoletto now on the left-hand side of us. He's coming back at us on the run into the right-hander, but we've got a yellow flag behind us. As we look to the inside, we can't overtake really Lance Stroll because there is a yellow flag on the mini-map, but not on the top of the screen, and we do actually take that position. The game says it's okay, so we're going to continue, but it is our teammate Ollie Behrman out of the sprint race on this opening lap of the restart. So Behrman out of contention, and we are up into P15. And if you look at the mini-map, the two Alpines that are just ahead of this second group, they are already inside the points in this Chinese sprint race. We've picked up another warning for track limits in the same place as we did on the first lap of the original start to this sprint race, but it's a better start. We're in P15, we're on the softer tyres, which hopefully will be better for us compared to the medium tyre. It just wouldn't work on the medium tyre for us for whatever reason in the first half of this sprint race, but we've now got to look in the mirrors because here comes Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. We're using the ERS to try and defend from Lance Stroll. Albon in turn ahead of us is attacking Liam Lawson as we head into the hairpin at the end of the back straight, and that is going to be the first lap of the restart and the 7th lap of the sprint complete. Lawson up the inside of Albon. There's a run here for us. We get tucked into the slipstream of Liam Lawson, but now we're going to gain on Lawson. We're going to go to the middle, and there's a bit of contact, and we didn't get the timing right to move into the middle, and there's contact between Lawson and myself. We run Lawson wide at turn 1. Albon's going to try and come back through on the inside. We have a bit of wing damage though in the front left of our Haas car. Albon comes around the outside. He's going to get that position and move back into P13. And now as we head on, we got a penalty for a track limits warning. Charles Leclerc's got through on us, and now we've got 6-second penalty to our name, and it just gets from bad to worse really for us, doesn't it? We just, for whatever reason, no concentration in this race. We've obviously got the damage, we're frustrated. We've been in the wars in this sprint race, and a bit of slack and careless driving, just exceeding that track limits a little bit and getting another 3-second penalty. So our race is pretty much over as we go for a big dive back up the inside of Lawson. We lock up and we run off the track, and now Lance Stroll is through on us as well. So at this point, I'm just thinking, what is the point? But we've only got 2 laps of the sprint race left, so we'll continue to the very end and see what we can do on circuit, because we're not going to be finishing anywhere respectable anyway, given that we are where are we going now? We've wandered straight off the track with the front wing damage, and the talk of trying to do something on the track has come to an end as we're relegated right to the back. Only Ollie Behrman behind us, who is obviously out of the race. So we are at the back of the field, and as we come through to complete the sprint race, it's victory for Max Verstappen, and it is going to be a luckless 21st place for us, and a heartbreaking sprint race after the heights that we achieved in the Australian Grand Prix. It's 21st for us in the Haas team. A very, very poor Saturday for Haas. Heo Meatman, driver of the day in the sprint race. He came from 21st to pick up points in 7th place for him. And Pierre Gasly picking up the final point in the sprint race. But for us and the Haas team, it was a day to forget. Ollie Behrman retiring from the race, and a luckless sprint race for us with careless driving on our part, running into the back of Lawson, picking up a 6-second penalty. Yeah, it just wasn't to be. But let's see what we can do in the main Grand Prix. It's qualifying time for the 28-lap Chinese Grand Prix.
Welcome along to Shanghai, ladies and gentlemen, where it's Chinese Grand Prix weekend. But before we can race, we need to qualify. And who's going to take that coveted pole position? How will our grid line up? We're about to find out. Welcome to qualifying.
All right, get ready to jump out if you get too hot in there. There's a problem with the cooling system and it's going to take us a few minutes to correct it.
And our Chinese Grand Prix just goes from bad to worse as we have a fault with the cooling system in qualifying. We have to sit and wait for a couple of minutes while the engineers get that one repaired, but we do get out on track eventually for our first run in Q1. The soft tyre gives me a little bit more hope for a better result compared to SQ1 on Friday afternoon. And then obviously the sprint race earlier on in the day. We're going to try and just see what we can do here on the softer tyre, because the soft tyre felt better in the sprint race as we have a lock-up for a McLaren ahead of us, and that just puts us off completely and we run off the circuit, and that is all she wrote for that lap, because we lost a lot of time there running into the runoff area, getting a little bit distracted from one of the McLarens there, locking up into that right-hander. So we're going to go again. It's going to be a 1 minute 36.5, 1.2 seconds off Liam Lawson, who did a 35.2. And obviously there's going to be time to find as we head now down towards the back straight, purple sector 1. Personal best middle sector. It's always sector 1 of these circuits where I seem to be strong as we head now into the hairpin. Lewis Hamilton, the man who topped SQ1, he goes top of Q1. Ollie Behrman currently holding P14 as Charles Leclerc sorts it out and goes top after a abysmal SQ1. Across the line we go though, it's P13, so we're at the minute we're holding a Q2 spot, and as we skip on to later on in the session, we're just holding that final space in Q2 in 16th position. Jamie 17th, Bortoletto in 18th, but look how close it is between myself and Jamie, just literally less than a tenth of a second between me and him. He's going to find that time, so we've got to make sure that we find that time as well and try to make sure that we maintain this place in Q2. Gasly 14th, he's in Q2 at the minute as well, so in turn the Alpine car behind us will be looking to join his teammate and try and get one up on the Frenchman in that Alpine squad. But we get a bit of a nice better run. We lose a little bit of time though on the exit. We gained a bit of time through the first section, but losing a couple of hundredths on the exit as we head now into this right hander, a little bit deep, but we get it rotated, get on the power, and we do pick up a little bit of time compared to our previous lap. So if he improves by a tenth behind and we improve by a tenth as well, it should balance out. But we've got to be wary of what Bortoletto is going to do, and then if there's any other drivers out of position and right on cue, we have been pushed out of the top 16 by the one and only Jamie Randall. But look at the right hand side, the top right of the screen, we are 0.6 of a second under on this second run. We're using a little bit of overtaking places now on this second run. Jamie's work in Q1 is done. He has retired. We pick up the overtake button onto the back straight and we pinch another half a tenth to a tenth of a second as we open up the DRS. It's all about now the braking point into this hairpin and getting the braking point right as we get on the brakes now for this hairpin. On the brakes, we've run wide though, we've locked up and we've just blown it completely out of the water. 0.6 of a second gone in a heartbeat. Now we've got to try and get through this final corner, open the DRS. It's only going to be a 0.2 improvement. It's P14 for now, but there are drivers on a better lap as we head through the right hander. We're going to go again, but unfortunately the lap doesn't come to anything and we are out of qualifying, it seems. Yes, we are P17 as Russell knocks us out. Jamie's there in P14, and unfortunately our Chinese Grand Prix doesn't get much better from here. But look at the time that we lost. We lost about half a second, and that would have put us up in the P11, P12 and safely into Q2. So the pace is there. It's just putting the pieces together and completing the lap. But nonetheless, it's 17th place for the Chinese Grand Prix.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. Good afternoon, everybody. We're here in Shanghai. Shanghai International Circuit then is a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests the driver's patience. And the flats, open to the elements location, test their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and they're available into turn 1 and down the kilometre-long back straight into turn 14. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And Lando Norris lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Piastri, Albon, Liam Lawson and Verstappen, Sainz, Antonelli, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Thomas and Russell, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Ryan, Pierce, Hayes, Bortoletto, Hadjar and Ollie Behrman rounds off the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Well, it's been a long time since I last worked with you. Good to see you again today. Anthony Davidson. Look, we know it's not where you start, it's where you finish. But let's talk about the start now. What's there to help the drivers get away well?
Big pressure at the start of the race, Crofty, for all of them up and down the grid, no matter where you are. But the drivers these days, they practice, practice and practice. They have rigs with them at the circuit where they can sit down with the actual steering wheel from the real car, and they've got lights that they react to. The clutch paddle is tailored around the driver's hands, around their fingers, so they can have optimum position before they start. So there's so much thought and effort that goes into getting these cars off the line.
Here we go then. It's Chinese Grand Prix time, and after the sprint race, we can only get better from here. It was a poor sprint race for us, let's say, in this Chinese Grand Prix, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll turn it around for this 29 lap or 28 lap, whatever it is, Chinese Grand Prix. We've got a couple of strategies available to us, and I'm not entirely sure which way to go down, because the one stop worked for us in Australia, but China, very different to the Albert Park circuit. Will we get the look of the safety car? I'm not entirely sure. The projected strategy at the minute is the soft, medium, hard, or we could be very aggressive, do an extra stop and go soft, medium, soft, hard, but I don't think it's worth doing that extra stop. Because we don't have the pace to regain that time that you'd lose by doing that extra stop. So it's going to be the one stop, but well, the two stops, sorry, the medium and the hard. But are we going to start on the soft tyre is the decision. Do we switch to maybe starting on the harder tyre and then leave the soft to the end to try and push? I think that would be sensible, but at the same time, I want to try and be as aggressive as physically possible in the early stages of this race to try and gain the position. So for that, we're going to start on the soft tyre, as is Hülkenberg alongside us. The two Apex cars actually behind us in 18th and 19th, they're going for the medium tyre. So a little bit of a split strategy around us, but Gasly ahead, Hülkenberg ahead, or on the softer red-walled tyre. So that's the target then. We've got to go with them guys. We can't get stuck behind any of the Apex cars, so we need to get a good start. In theory, the softer rubber underneath our Haas car will get us away from the lights better than the Apex cars behind us, but you never know as we head now in towards turn number 1 in the sprint race. I'm trying to see what tyres Russell's on. I think it might be the medium tyre, and I'm trying to see what tyre Jamie's on. I think it's a medium tyre as well. So mediums for Jamie and Russell. Maybe they are praying that there's a safety car, an early safety car, and they can maybe make a one-stop work around the Chinese Grand Prix. It would be a miracle if you could pull that off, I think, around here. At least for us and the projected tyre wear that we've had across the weekend. I think a two-stop strategy is our fastest race that we could possibly do. A one-stop would only work, obviously, if we have a safety car and we started on the mediums or the harder tyre to then nurse the harder tyre to the end. But I don't think it's physically possible, as we just have an absolute moment and run into the back of Nico Hulkenberg at the end of the warm-up lap. But it is what it is. We are ready to go racing in the Chinese Grand Prix as we rev up towards 5 red lights, and the Chinese Grand Prix is underway as we go racing at Shanghai, and it's a good start. Once again, we get alongside Hulkenberg, who actually got a second phase, really good second phase of the start there, and gets through on us. But we're going to look to go round the outside now of him, and it looked like an Apex car has made a good start. So what exactly I didn't want to happen seems to have happened, and the Apex car gets off to a good start. But now we're wheel to wheel with the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, and then we pick up the power and the traction on Lance Stroll, who started on the harder tyre. So we get that tyre advantage on the Aston Martin and breeze by him, but he's coming back at us into this right-hander. We're going to try and hang it around the outside of the Aston Martin, and in turn Pierre Gasly trying to get through as well, but we're through on the Aston Martin and Lance Stroll, and we're up into P13, but a little bit wide there from us as we get a bit of wash of understeer from the cars ahead of us, and Gasly now attacks us in the Alpine. We're going to do everything that we can to hang around the outside at these double left-handers. We've got to be wary though. We've got a track limits warning on the very first lap here on the sprint races in the 2 stars, but this time no such drama, and we are through and into P13 as Russell now attacks Tsunoda. Antonelli being attacked by Jamie as well, and that allows us to go round the outside of George Russell and Yuki Tsunoda, and we're through into P11. It's been a miracle start to the Chinese Grand Prix, an absolutely perfect start to the race here in Shanghai, and we're going to now switch the medium tyre to the hard tyre and go hard in the middle of the stint and then medium at the end. I think that would be better to have that softer medium tyre at the end of the race. But Tsunoda now fires it up the inside, but we hang it round the outside with that softer tyre, and I know that it's probably a bit stupid fighting the Red Bull at this stage of the race, but with us being on the soft tyre and him being on the hard, I don't really want to be, let him go and then risk him having a slower pace in this phase of the race. He shouldn't do, being in the Red Bull. But as Jamie's got the Mercedes and Antonelli as a marker ahead of him to try and keep Alonso at bay, who in turn is piling the pressure on the Alpine, I don't particularly want to be stuck behind the Red Bull car if he then can't overtake Alonso or Jamie either. So for now, we are fighting with our elbows out to try and keep track position in the early phase of this race, but we can only hang on, as we saw in Australia against Max Verstappen, we can only hang on to a position against a Red Bull for so long, and as soon as these tyres start dropping away and them hard tyres come to life, Tsunoda will be through. But in fact, we're actually going to do the opposite of what I said and let Yuki Tsunoda go in this left-hander, because I can see that we aren't sticking with Alonso and Jamie ahead. The pace just isn't there in the first phase of this race, so maybe just sticking with Tsunoda on the harder tyre as we have a big moment on the exit. And now we've got to look in our mirrors, because here comes Pierre Gasly down the outside, and he gets momentarily through, but on the brakes we defend from the Alpine car, and we are back into P12. And my plan of letting Tsunoda go and risking that he has a bit of a slower pace to then just sit in his DRS has failed, because he's pulled away from us massively straight away after that slide. Pierre Gasly down the inside into the hairpin, but better on the brakes than the Frenchman, and we're hanging around the outside just like we did to Tsunoda a couple of laps ago, and we are through and back into P12. But Tsunoda's made it through on Fernando Alonso now, who's just ahead of us. He's the next car, but Gasly gets the run on us out the final corner. It was a really poor exit from us in this final corner, and Gasly, with the aid of DRS, flies on through and puts the Alpine up into P12. And now we've got to look in our mirrors, because here comes George Russell down the inside, sticks his nose in, forces us to go the long way round at turn number 1, but that gives us the inside line for turn 2, and we can now try and force Russell out. But the Mercedes is just superior round the outside, and Russell's through, and there's no point fighting him, and we slot into P14. And now we can try and keep Nico Hulkenberg at bay in the Sauber car. We've got a Ferrari behind as well in Lewis Hamilton, but now here comes Hulkenberg, the man who we had contact with, into this very corner in the sprint race, as Hulkenberg momentarily gets ahead of us. We go round the outside of the German and we maintain the position, but because Hulkenberg's nose got about a centimetre ahead of us, it means that we failed the objective that we was given, which is a bit annoying despite hanging on to that place. And actually, as Hulkenberg attacks us, he peels off into the pit lane for the first stop of this race. So Hulkenberg into the pits And whether he'll be going for a one-stop maybe onto the harder tyre, we'll have to wait and see. But we've made a mistake at turn 1, and Lance Stroll says thank you very much. He doesn't need a second invitation. He's through in the Aston Martin, and now we're wheel to wheel with the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, who comes flying round the outside, and Hamilton is through and into P15. We can't really fight the Ferrari car all that much, given that you know, they are the Ferrari car and we are the Haas car. We're just using the Ferrari power to power us around this Grand Prix. But Hamilton through, he can now chase after Lance Stroll. They're on the same tyre, the harder tyre. We've got Sonny Hayes behind us in the Apex car, and then Isaac Hadjar as well. But Hamilton looks to be lining a move up on Lance Stroll with the DRS. They go side by side up ahead, but we've got bigger things to worry about, because now the medium tyre runner of Hayes and the hard tyre of Isaac Hadjar are looking to get through. We switch to the inside, we get up the inside, we're sliding our way back through the inside of Sonny Hayes. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact as we go through, but that is going to be our call to come into the pit lane as we're being attacked by the medium tyre runners. We get a bit of a lock-up on the way in, though, run wide. That's cost us a bit of time, and then nice and gingerly on the brakes into the pit lane. We definitely could have taken a bit more risk into the pits, but we were fighting Nico Hulkenberg, so it's going to be interesting to see where we come out in turn with the German, and how far ahead or behind we are to the Sauber. But the hard tyres are on. Like I say, we're going to go longer in the middle as Hulkenberg goes flying by. Hulkenberg has jumped us massively with that undercut, and then as we get the power down on the hard tyre, no grip whatsoever, and we are 5.76 seconds behind Nico Hulkenberg. He's gained 6 seconds on us in that lap alone. My pace surely was not that bad, but clearly it was, and that's just really demoralising to see. 6 seconds behind Nico Hulkenberg, and as other drivers make their pit stop, we're down in no man's land, P20, because we were in a battle with other drivers, and now we are absolutely nowhere.
Okay, stand by, we see a problem our end and we're looking into it.
And now, to make matters worse, we've got a problem with the car. They are looking into what the situation could be, but as Ollie Behrman is gaining and gaining and gaining all the time, we have a problem with our car, and that might explain the lack of pace, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see what it is.
I can confirm it's an issue with our engine, I'm afraid.
So we have a problem with our engine, but the MFD is giving us something completely different. So I don't know what to believe now. We have a DRS failure, but Mark is telling us on the radio that we have a problem with our engine. So now I'm driving around trying to work out exactly what's going on. Is the car feeling alright? Is the lap times alright? Is the engine alright? I know that we've got no DRS, so we're not going to be able to fight anybody.
DRS is unavailable. The rear wing is down, so you can stay out while we work on a fix.
Now Mark's telling us that our DRS is down, but as we let Ollie Behrman go, you'll notice in the top left of the screen, Jamie out of the Chinese Grand Prix once again, and that's a second failure to finish the race for the Alpine car. He is out of this one as we head now through this right-hander for the end of the sector. We've let Ollie Behrman go in the Haas car on the medium. Our teammate better pace than us at this stage of the race, so we're going to have to try and just latch on to the back of him and see what we can do as we head now into this section, the snail section that leads onto the back straight in the slipstream of Ollie Behrman. We're going to see if our DRS is back online as we have a big slide from the rear as we try and get the power down. The hard tyres starting to protest me a little bit. The tyre wear shouldn't be too bad. It's not really that bad, 30-odd%, but no DRS again for us on this lap. So we're still fighting what is a knife fight with a wooden spoon, really, it feels like, down this back straight, because we seem to be down on power anyway. The car just doesn't seem to have the legs. Whether that's just the exit that we're getting onto the back straight, which it probably is the exit that we're getting onto the back straight, but yeah, we have no fight. We have nothing to fight with. We're using all the deployment possible, despite just sitting in medium really for all of the lap. So we're trying to manage the ERS as Lawson comes out right in this fight between Albon and Behrman. So Lawson fighting Albon on track. We're obviously fighting Behrman at the back of the field, but we're up into P10 now with drivers making their pit stop. We've got George Russell right behind us. I don't really want to hold George up too much, but at the same time I don't want to let him go. As we are on the back of Behrman, we lock the rears up into the right-hander, trying to be as aggressive as we can on the brakes, but I think it's now time. George Russell is going to go through in towards turn number 1 with the DRS, he slips through and is up into 9th position now as another driver makes their pit stop. We've now got Bortoletto behind us, a driver that we are fighting with Ollie Bearman as well. So Bearman, myself and Bortoletto all fighting for what would be, 19th place I think in this race, as Bortoletto looks to go around the outside of us. We're going to just defend that one, park our car on the inside. Ollie Bearman with a big slide, and that actually caught me off guard a little bit. I just was a little bit timid applying the throttle, and Bortoletto flying around the outside on the medium tyre. He's through and up into 10th position now in this phase of the race, and we are just struggling now. The pace, for whatever reason, we should really have better pace than Bearman now as his medium tyre starts to drop away. But for whatever reason, our pace is not it. As we head down this long back straight, we've got a yellow flag behind us. No indication as to why that is at the moment. Nobody has retired from the race. Yellow flag still out, and there is a Sauber going slowly. So Hulkenberg, as Bearman pits, Hulkenberg is going slowly down this back straight. So a problem for Nico Hulkenberg. It might be a puncture, you know, because he's not out of the race, but he is travelling very, very slowly according to that mini-map that I just spotted into the final corner. So Hulkenberg with a problem. We are still trying to chase down his teammate, but a mistake on the brakes is going to now allow Fernando Alonso through round the outside, and no such problems for him. Alonso's through, and now we've got Sonny Hayes, who's having a really strong race in the Apex car, and we get tangled with Hayes. Hayes goes through, and now into the slipstream, and through goes Hamilton down the back straight. Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari powers through myself. He powers by Sonny Hayes, and he's through into what is 11th place in this race. There's contact though between the two of them. Hamilton cutting that inside curb on the hairpin. He gets through on Hayes. There's no point fighting them because we are going to peel off straight into the pit lane, nearly running into the back of the Apex car into the pit lane. And who's this? It's Nico Hulkenberg, indeed, with a rear right puncture for the Sauber car. He's out of this one pretty much. He's a lap down even to us now, so he'll probably be 2 laps down by the time he gets everything sorted and is back out of the race. So we come in and we are down into 18th position. Got to keep an eye on the left hand side of the screen to see how far Bearman is. In fact, he's coming down and past us now. So once again, we lose so much time in this race. We lose time in that phase where we get undercut. Another 5 seconds lost to Bearman. I know he was a couple of seconds in front anyway, but Bearman's just gone in this race. But now we have that tyre advantage. We might be able to chase him down. A little bit of housekeeping. Max Verstappen has retired from the race in the midst of the battle that we were having with Bearman and Bortoletto and everybody. Max is out of the Chinese Grand Prix, so the sprint race winner with no such luck in the main race. But as we head now down towards the hairpin, we're catching Bearman, slowly catching Monkey to our teammate on the harder tyre. But I am wary that our medium tyre will start falling away and Bearman might have that pace advantage. But look at this, we actually have a bit of DRS deployment now, and we've got to keep an eye on Bortoletto behind on the soft tyre. But we are catching Pierce and Bearman, and if we can get ahead of them too, it will be nice at least to finish ahead of our teammate first, but also beating another driver as well. We just make this very tricky Chinese Grand Prix a little bit better. But one thing that I have to take is it's not like, Bearman is 10 seconds up the road. Bearman is there half a second in front of us, so we are matching our teammate in terms of race pace as it stands. We're both at the same point of the track at the same time, but we're just lacking so much pace compared to the cars in front of us. I mean, where is the next car in front of Joshua Pierce? Miles up the road, and it's the Aston Martin of Stroll, I think, who's behind one of the RB cars. So we just lack in pace. Whether it's just a strategy, going a little bit too long on the tyres that we've been going on for, I don't know. But we are under pressure now from Bortoletto, and that's allowed Bearman to escape. We're too busy focusing on the car behind and trying to just keep Bortoletto at bay. Bearman is through, and time is running out because we're on the penultimate lap of the Chinese Grand Prix. We're on lap 27 of 28, halfway round this penultimate lap, and Bearman is gone. I don't think we're going to be getting through on Bearman or Pierce at this stage of the race, because we're just out of DRS there by about half a tenth of a second, 50,000th of a second we missed out on DRS by. So Bortoletto behind has got DRS and the soft tyre and a better run onto the back straight, and we've got nothing. You can see that we had a bit of a shimmy of the wheel and a bit of frustration there that we let Behrman and Piers get away, because there might have been a chance if we had the DRS on this last lap to get through. Bortoleto goes up to the inside. We hang it round the outside though of the Sauber car and maintain that position. Nico Hulkenberg on the medium tyre, he's a lap down, but he is behind us in this train. He's just coming into the final corner now, so we don't have to worry about him, but I'm sure if he was here, he'd be trying everything he can just to get Bortoleto ahead of us. But look at this, we're gaining now on Pierce, who's seems to be struggling in the dirty air of Behrman in towards turn number 1. We close that gap down massively, so maybe it's not over just yet if we want to have a go at Joshua Pierce. But again, fighting the car on the exit of turn 2, there's just no rear traction, it seems, at this moment in time, and that gives Bortoleto the invitation to look round the outside, but it's nothing more than a look. He's going to switch to the inside though on the exit, but we defend that one nicely. Lando Norris is victorious once again. It's 2 from 2 in the Grand Prix for Lando Norris. He wins the Chinese Grand Prix. We're still locked in this battle though with Ollie Behrman and Joshua Pierce, but no way through at the moment. Them two escaping all the time, and I think we've just got to put all our attention, as we have another big slide. We need to just put all our focus and all our attention into keeping Bortoleto behind. A bit of a lock-up into the left-hander as we just fight the car and just pushing the car to its absolute limit just to try and stay ahead of a Sauber, who, by the way, is behind us in the development race, and we're being beaten by, we're being pressurised this much by a Sauber. It doesn't bode too well, and the pace here demonstrated by myself is just not all that much. As we head now into the hairpin, Bortoleto gets through. We brake a little bit earlier to then let the brake off, and now we're stuck on Bortoleto's car as two lines merge into one on the exit. Bortoleto's going to have the inside line, and I think we might have to relinquish that position, and Bortoleto in the Sauber beats us. It's P19 for us in the Chinese Grand Prix, and that puts an end to what was a torturous and just very, very challenging weekend for us at the Chinese Grand Prix. The driver of the day is Ollie Behrman, and unfortunately, no points for Haas in the Chinese Grand Prix.
And here he comes. It's all go, go, go for Lando Norris as he takes the checkered flag and wins.
And that's 2 wins in a row now, of course, Crofty. And it marks the fact that it's not a fluke. So, you know, their head's in the right space. What more can we see going forwards?
It's what they've all been racing towards, waiting for them. High above the pit lane is our podium. And for the lucky 3, it's time to stand on it. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris.
Lando Norris is victorious in the Chinese Grand Prix. Let's look at the race results, not the weekend results. Norris wins, Leclerc second, Piastri third, Carlos Sainz fourth, Lawson fifth. A very strong race for him. It was Antonelli in sixth. Didn't quite see who was in seventh. Albon eighth, Alonso ninth, Hamilton in 10th position in the Ferrari car. But we were absolutely nowhere. It was George Russell in 7th position, but we finished nowhere in that one. We were a minute and 9 behind. We were 5 seconds behind our teammate Ollie Behrman, but in turn, if there's any consolation, we finished the race and we sit 12th in the championship. Jamie there, he got sprint race points. He's up to 14th in the world standings, but out front it's a McLaren domination with Lando leading Oscar Piastri once again. Red Bull sits second in the Constructors' Championship, but 52 points and only 2 points clear of the Red Bull team. But there we go, round number 2. The Chinese Grand Prix done and dusted. It was not the Grand Prix that we hoped for in China. A very, very difficult weekend for us. And hopefully we can only get a little bit better from here. The Japanese Grand Prix isn't really going to play to our strong suits, really. We are quite far down in the chassis and the aero kind of section of the development, and with the Japanese Grand Prix, having that first sector as it is, we're going to struggle a little bit. We haven't really got the straight line speed to do anything. We do have some R&D in progress thanks to myself and Ollie Behrman both working on the car for the next couple of rounds, but we're going to have a look and see what we could do moving forwards. We've got 1.2k R&D, but I think we have development across most of the kind of areas of development in terms of aero, chassis, powertrain, durability. Behrman's got something in development there in the powertrain. We've got development going on in the chassis, and we've got development going on in the aerodynamics. So we can't actually make any upgrades to the car. So yeah, we're going to have a bit of a development pause. But there we go. That is it for today. The Chinese Grand Prix done and dusted. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hopefully, touch wood, we'll be back fighting nearer the front and the Japanese Grand Prix. So until then, I'll see you for the Japanese Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.